Good morning and happy Friday, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining. So far this morning, we had the SPY popping up. We're seeing a pretty strong recovery so far. Very surprising, actually, in my opinion. But yeah, lots of movement so far on the SPY. Welcome Santiago, J-Trade, Alex, Raphael, David, the other Alex, KK, AJ, Jorge, Justin, and Mike to the stream. Thank you guys so much for joining. And Tom, let's get right into it. So we have the market popping up. What are you seeing?
Yeah, the SPY's really recovering up after double bottoming down there around 448.30, kind of like the pre-market of yesterday, how we kind of hit that bottom and then came right back up. Same thing today. We hit that bottom in after hours, and now this morning we're all the way back up towards 451. And honestly, the recovery looks pretty good. It looks like a pretty good double bottom down here, like I said, and the recovery today looks nice. I would think that we might be able to head up towards 452 once the market opens, or maybe a little bit higher. But this recovery is pretty good for just being a pre-market slash overnight move. So I could maybe see the market come back, but honestly, I'd be looking for the market to keep going up.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say because I think we've been on a red streak since, like, I think it's like the last 4 trading days or something like that. And, the market's a powerhouse, especially over the past year or so. We saw it go up a lot more than we saw it fall. So, you'd think that it'd keep going up, but, there's only it could only last like this long for only a certain amount of time. You know what I mean? So I know that I'm definitely protected if the market does fall. I know that we grab those XLK put debit spreads to protect ourselves. So either way, very interesting market. Welcome Mike, Sean, Vicky, and Umar to the stream. Thank you guys for joining, and happy Friday. So to start the market, we have Baidu up like 2%. This stock is up the most on my watch list. I had a pretty nice gap up. Baidu's up. Baba's up 2%. JD, they're all popping up. All the China stocks. Even NIO, Tom. Look at that one's doing pretty well this morning.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm glad to see these stocks keep gapping up like this. It seems like every day these China stocks have a gap either up or down. And it looks like this morning was to the upside, which is great to see for Baba, NIO, and all those other China stocks. NIO is my favorite one. I know that we've been eyeing that one up a ton the past few days, especially around the $38 support, which it looks like it's bouncing off of pretty well. And looks like we're coming back to the upside. So maybe watch for it to hit like 39.70 or right around that $40 resistance. I think that'll be a pretty good level to look for today. And honestly, with the gap up in pre-market, I could see this one keep running over the next like hour, maybe 2 hours.
Love to hear it. And then welcome Iranical and Spacely to the stream. Tom, check out Zoom real quick. ZM, they're basically up 1% today, but they are holding their ground very, very well. And I feel like a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on Zoom. I feel like some people are like, hey, this stock has been way overvalued, and, as the world returns to normal, Zoom's just going to tank off. And then there's some people, including myself, that, think Zoom is a great company and, that the world has literally changed over the past 2 years so much where I think Zoom has a lot more growth potential. And, there are some smart people like, Kathy Wood and a lot of other people that have been buying Zoom over the past year or so. So what are your thoughts on it?
My thoughts are pretty, I would say I'm more of aligned with you, Mike. I could see that it's definitely what it was overvalued whenever it was running up towards like 588 towards, above $400 and stuff like that. But over the past couple weeks and over the past few months, it's really consolidated a lot down here around this $300 support, which is a pretty big fall from 588. That's almost half of the stock's price. So that's a pretty big fall. And I could see it possibly bouncing here at this support. I'm more with you where I think the world's changed and I don't think Zoom's going to go anywhere. I think that this drop down is kind of warranted. I think that 600 might have been a little overvalued, but for right now, I think for the future, it's a great time to buy shares. We're right around that 300 support. And like you said, it's not like Zoom's going anywhere. Companies are still going to always use Zoom, even if like the public isn't using it as much for like college and stuff like that. Businesses and everyone still uses Zoom quite a bit, and I would expect them to do well. And one thing that's really catching my eye with Zoom is their earnings. Like we can see even back like in their prime, they only had like a 0.99 EPS, and they have great growth, 1.32, 1.36 EPS. Their EPS just keeps growing. So that shows that their revenue is doing pretty good.
There we go. All right, and then we have Alex saying AMC is trying to hit 50. Let's take a look. It got so close this morning. I think the high was $49.88. So, Alex, it's slowly grinding up there. Looks like it's struggling a little bit at open, but they've had an awesome, awesome week so far. And Tom, we are getting really close to that $50 resistance. What levels are you seeing?
Yeah, definitely 50. I would think if we break that, we could get a nice breakout like we saw a couple weeks ago on AMC. Once we finally broke out above $38, we ended up pushing up through 40 and ran all the way up to $47, $48 whenever we finally had that break. And I think that we could see another big move like that if we break 50. Now, I'm not saying we're just going to fly straight up to 60 or anything like that, but I could see a pretty good move, maybe up to like $54 to $55 if we break this, and just really make it break first, though, because it could get rejected here. We've been rejected a lot of times, but I'll be honest, it looks like it's primed for a breakout to me. It's just in a good pattern, and it's really higher than all these levels that it's been at for the past few weeks, but it's like you said, it's just having a lot of trouble breaking 50.
Alrighty. And then we have Hayden saying, oh no, CHPT. Let's take a look. Yeah, it's getting smacked so far. It's down like 2%. Not good. Let's see the news. Yeah, I know that, okay, so it looks like Bank of America, this was a couple days ago, though, that they have a neutral sentiment on CHPT with a $26 price target. But, like I said, that was a couple days ago. Just looks like there's a lot of sellers coming in right at open. I'm not seeing any major catalysts. When you look at, like, BLNK, they are holding their ground, and even PLUG. So, I don't know, hopefully CHPT makes a comeback, Tom.
Yeah, and they're all kind of falling down. Like Plug had a pretty bad past couple days, and they're not really moving at all today either. Even though they're green, they're only up like we could see like maybe 30 cents from yesterday. So it's not like a big rise there. But you're right, Plug is kind of moving up today, while CHPT had that big sell off. And I would kind of hope that they could move the same, because they have been moving the same for the past few weeks. And here we have BLNK coming in with a little red. But yeah, you're right. Hopefully CHPT can kind of get back up there. That's definitely not a good sign. But the good news is that on the max daily chart, there's a pretty big support here right around like $20.50. And we've been holding that pretty well with CHPT. But you're right. We definitely need a good bounce off this support to get ourselves back up towards, 25 or higher.
All right. And then we have Spacely saying, currently running with a few 30-strike Palantir calls expiring on October 15th. He said, fingers crossed. So I hope they do work for you, but, 30 is pretty far, especially for October 15th. So either way, Palantir's been on a solid uptrend over like the past, I guess you could say the past month or so. So I really hope it continues for you. And I'm definitely a fan of Palantir.
Yeah, me too. And it looks like a pretty good bounce here off that $25 support. And it looks like we're getting some nice recovery moves here. I would think if we could break out above 26.50, which is a pretty big resistance for Palantir, we could end up going up. But I think it might be pretty hard for it to break out today. I think it's just going to depend on how the rest of these kind of growth stocks end up moving.
All right, and then we have Alex saying, can you take a look at snow? Besides 325, is there any other resistance levels to look for? I have in October 15th, 310 strike calls, trying to see a good spot to exit. So, you're in the money, you have time, so I definitely like that option, especially because it's in the money. So 325 is definitely an important level. Besides that, I don't see a major resistance until 340. What about you?
Yeah, I don't really see one up until 340 after 325 also, but 325 definitely seems pretty like a pretty significant resistance level for it. And I would say it looks like they might go like in a little bit of a range, maybe between like 300 and 325 if we do see a rejection at 325. But other than that, I'm with you. I don't see too big of a rejection or too big of a resistance after that, all the way up till 340 or 350, which shows that there could be some good movement there, but really make it break 325. It looks like that's been a pretty big resistance.
All right. And then one other thing, Alex, I'm not sure what you paid for that 310 call, but let's just say you paid 15. Yeah, let's say you paid like $1,300 for it, right? I have no idea what you paid, but let's just say you paid $1,300. What you can do right now is you can go over to that October expiration and you can sell, let's say, the 325 strike call for around $1,300, and you will be completely risk free. And then you can just play the setup, and if the stock continues up, you can just either let the spread expire and sell it for max value, or you can just close the spread at any time. But if you sell an option that is equal to the price you paid for the original option, you can become 100% risk free on the play. And even if you can't get the full amount back, like let's say you paid $1,800 for the first option and you sell the next option for like $1,300, it's still a good deal. So I just want to bring that up there. I know that can be a really good strategy, and I know a lot of people like to use that, including myself. And then we have Oliver saying Netflix is getting smacked the past 2 days. They are, but honestly, I'm not surprised. They had a crazy run up from 520 up to basically 620 in like a month or so. So that's some really, really big movement, especially on a stock like Netflix for, as big as they are.
Yeah, and I counted this a few days ago, and there was like 15 or 16 green days in a row if you don't count this one small red day mixed in there. So it was definitely a lot of upwards movement, and they broke through that 550 resistance and just flew all the way up to 615. Like that was a crazy break of resistance there and a crazy move to all-time highs. I'm with you, Mike. I'm not really surprised to see this pullback happening at all. And looking at it on like a 15-minute chart, I could think we could fall a little bit lower even than we are now. We finally fell below 600. I could see a solid move maybe down to like 590 today, and then next week maybe 580.
All right, so we have Jorge and Info saying AMC just broke 50. It broke it and it's running. It's now at $50 and like 45 cents. It's up over 4% on the day. Good volume coming in, lots of buyers coming in. It has a lot of momentum, Tom. Is AMC back?
I think so. We broke 50. We ran all the way up to 50.79 with a nice 1-point move. It's not like the stock just didn't go anywhere. Look at it on the max daily chart. It wasn't like a bullish flag setup on the daily, and it actually ended up breaking out of there this morning. That was an awesome move. Glad it broke out of this flag. And I'll say this, it's a pretty bullish setup. I could see AMC continuing up today. And this is not usually my favorite stock in the world to trade either, but with this break, I could really see it moving. And just look at this daily setup here. It's really breaking out of the flag and breaking above 50. Like there's so many good catalysts right now with AMC on a technical level that it's really crazy. Obviously their fundamentals are going to be a little crazy because of their earnings last time that didn't really go too well, but we'll have to see what ends up going on here. I think that AMC can end up flying up over the rest of today and maybe into tomorrow, but that break was awesome. And I would really target like 51 or higher today.
There we go. And then we have Jorge saying LCID broke 20. Let's take a look. Yeah, finally. They've been trying to break that for a couple days. So it's good to see a break above that. We have Keisha saying, good Friday morning, guys. Welcome to the stream. And we have Oliver saying, let's see UPST. Touch 294, then coming down. And then we also had Justin saying, do you see UPST going up today? So, Justin, my opinion on UPST is that it's overbought, but keep in mind, I've been saying this for like the past couple days or even the past couple weeks. So, it's been running up so much. I've been in calls, or I had calls on UPST when it was at like 130 or 120, something. Yeah, I think, like 120. And it exploded up on earnings, and I took profits very quickly, and it just kept going. It's been going straight up for the past month or so, but I definitely think it's way overbought, and that we will see a pullback soon.
Yeah, and like you said, we got really close to that $300 resistance this morning, and that might pose as a pretty good level for UPST as an upper resistance, so really watch it. I think 300 might be the level to break, and the main thing is with UPST is, you're right, I mean, it's just been going up so much that it has to come down at some point. And, we've been saying this ever since it was at 200. Now we're all the way up towards 300, and it looks even worse now. So I would say definitely look at it to the downside over the next few days, especially if it can't break 300. I feel like 300 is going to be a big psychological level.
All righty. And then we have, let's see, Alex also mentioned UPST falling. I mean, like yesterday, UPST had a decent sell-off right at open, and they came right back up, so I can't tell if this is a fake out or what, but either way, keep it on your radar. I think it's pretty overbought. And then we have Jorge saying MU is trying to break out. Let's take a look. MU, yeah, they're looking really good. Good eye, Jorge.
Yeah, that's a big move, up 3% out of MU. And I'll tell you what, ever since MU hit that $70 support, they've been looking really good for shares. And I think for just like a longer term pickup, and I think they have a lot of potential to keep going up. They're obviously one of the bigger like chip slash semiconductor stocks out there. Their earnings are kind of heading in the right direction, which is great. And I would think that over the next few months to few years, they could end up doing very well, especially over the next few years. I could really see new highs out of Micron and some of these other chip stocks. You know, these chips aren't going anywhere. And the more we use electronics and stuff, the more that they're going to be needed.
Good stuff. And then we have, let's see, a lot of people talking about AMC and MU. Then we have Keisha saying, can Starbucks break 120 today? Let's take a look. All right, so Starbucks, let me take a look. I mean, they're getting really close. You know, they're getting very, very close to that 120 resistance. I know we talked about this a little bit on yesterday's stream, but Starbucks it's like more of like a value stock, so it just moves different than like a tech stock would. It in certain ways, it kind of reminds me of like KO. I know they're completely different and all that, but it's just like a slow mover. So I can see it, but it's just, in my opinion, it's just like a slower moving play.
Yeah, same. And, you know, there is a big resistance at 120, which it failed to break out of yesterday. And it did kind of fall down yesterday off of that level. So maybe watch for that. If we fail to break 120, then just don't play it. But if we break out above 120, you might be able to catch a quick move. Kind of like Mike said, though, if there is a breakout, it might only go from like 120 to like 120.50 or like 121. Like you might not get too much of an opportunity here.
All right. And then we have Spacely saying, my Palantir call is going green. There we go. Love to see that. Palantir's having a pretty awesome day so far. Up like 1.5%, and the market's only been open for 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's really crazy. And it's coming up. It's coming right back to that 26.50 level. And I don't know. I mean, we're seeing a lot of other stocks break out. Palantir might be able to get a good break today. It's only up 1.3%, and I've seen them have way better days than this.
You know what stock I really like right now, Tom? RUN.
RUN, run. I'm surprised. I haven't heard about this one in a while, but look at that move. 6.5%, moving off that 44 support. I'll be honest, this looks pretty good, Mike. Big resistance at 48, but looks like we're going to break that eventually. Yeah, look at that off support on the daily. You're right, Mike. This looks like a pretty good setup. And it looks like it wants to break out of these resistances over the next like week or two. I think it's a great pickup for shares right now. One of my favorite stocks actually on the market. The only thing that worries me a little bit is their EPS. But other than that, I mean, it looks pretty great.
Yeah, looks pretty good in my opinion. And then we have Rama saying Intel making good move. Let's take a look. INTC. Yeah, they're having a great move today. It's been a while since I've seen Intel move like this. But hey, it's looking good. Big support at 52 and even 54. Looks like we have some chop slash resistance right around 56 and 58.
Yeah, and look at this. I love how it hit off the 1,000 SMA down here at the bottom. I'm telling you, this 1,000 SMA on the daily chart is one of the best levels to like buy stocks off of for the long term. Usually if stocks have a big drop, they end up bouncing off of these like the 1,000 SMA, and then usually supports right around there too. So it worked out pretty well. And I'm glad to see it bouncing like this. I think personally, it looks like a pretty good pickup for shares for the long term. I know Intel, AMD, Nvidia, MU, Qualcomm, those stocks have a really good outlook for the next like 5+ years. And I think that they'll end up doing great, especially Intel. You know, I think that they're one of the big powerhouses, and I don't think they're going anywhere. You know, they've had a lot of flack the past couple of years with AMD and Nvidia kind of having the growth that they've had. But I think Intel will end up coming around and doing pretty well. And I think that their stock's bouncing awesome off supports and stuff. I'm really glad you brought up $52, Mike, and then that resistance up there around 58.
Good stuff. And then we have Rama saying BBBY. So let's take a look. BBBY. Bed Bath & Beyond is sitting at like $25 right now. Big support at 25. Strong resistance at 30. Honestly, it doesn't really have too much hype right now. I know it's definitely more of like a hype stock. I'm just not seeing that momentum right now.
Yeah, me either. There's just no momentum coming in. It's just kind of flat today. And you know, we have AMC and these other stocks rising up. Like, look at AMC now, all the way up to $51. But for BBBY, you're looking at it and it's just a very slow mover, up only 0.12%. I know that this was more of a hype stock a couple months ago, and right now it just doesn't seem to have that hype.
How about Peloton, Tom? This thing boomed yesterday and it's still going.
Yeah, look at that continuation here on the daily. Like that, those two green candles look very strong, up another 4% today. That was a great move up through 110 this morning. And I'm glad to see Peloton running like this. I know we talked about him earlier, and I'm glad to see him running. I really like the company, and I think that they can do good for the longer term. So I'm glad to see it. And looking at it on the daily, it looks pretty good. I would say there's a big resistance coming up around 120, but that's still 8 points away. I'm not sure we'll be able to get 3 green days in a row out of this or not, but it looks pretty solid.
Right, and then we have Gerard saying, finally, Zoom is moving. I love to see this movement. It's up 2.5% on the day. You know, Tom, they actually didn't report bad earnings, but the market clearly did not like that earnings release. But either way, I think they're a solid company, and I still think that they have a ton of growth potential. And it's more of like a longer term play. You know, I'm not saying Zoom's going to hit 350 by next week, but I really like Zoom like over the next couple months and the next couple years. So it should be exciting. And Tom, it would be awesome if we could see like sometimes when stocks report earnings and they gap down, like, sometimes they have like those explosive movements back to the upside. So hopefully we see something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we see him fill gaps like this all the time, and sometimes it might take a couple weeks, but it could definitely get back up there pretty easily. I think, Zoom's I will say they're a pretty popular stock. People like to trade them, and I'll say like every trader I know generally knows what Zoom is, but if I ask them about like CHPT, half of them don't even know. So like Zoom's a pretty well-known stock. I'm glad people look at it, and right now it's at support, and I'm with you. I think it could definitely fill that gap, possibly back up to like 320, 325 to 330 as a pretty safe level. And just looking at it, I don't think Zoom's going to go anywhere. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but even if people end up, going like back outside and get more like person to person meetings and stuff like that, I don't think Zoom will go anywhere in the long run. And even if their outlook's bad, maybe for like the next few months, or if they're expecting to like lose a little bit of customers or something like that, I'm sure it'll even out in the long run. And, I would say maybe give it like 3 to 6 months and we might see it break 400 again.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And then we have Max saying, looks like the SPY is starting to dip. What are you seeing, Tom?
Yeah, I think personally, it looks like it's starting to really turn over here on the daily chart. We're right at that 450 level. We ran out to 454. And my main thing is that with the SPY, we've been consolidating for a long time up here. Like, it's not like, we just hit 454 and went straight down. Like, we've been sitting here for ever since like August 30th. So that's a pretty like big, 10 or 12 days, whatever you want to call it. But that's a pretty big consolidation area right there. And it looks like there's a lot of movement to the downside off of this. And I would say as we fall below $450, I could see it continuing to go, Mike. And, we've been holding this level at like 448.50, and it's just been failing to kind of break down. But I feel like maybe starting next week or something like that, the market might fall below 448 on the SPY. And I think if we fall below 448, that's when the sell-off will really accelerate.
Yeah, Tom, just like look at SPY intraday like you are. Like over like the past week or so, it's just a lot of selling. And it's not that it's like, crash type movement. I just think it's a lot of people de-risking themselves and taking profits. So we're definitely in an interesting time right now. We have Mason coming in saying stocked up. Welcome to the stream, Mason. Let us know what stocks you're watching. Info says AFRM, great pop on earnings. So I know they had that Amazon deal like what was it, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. And they're still going, Tom. So they're up like 19%, good earnings, and they broke that $100 resistance. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword there.
Yeah, and their EPS was actually like way worse than it was expected too. So that Amazon deal must have really pushed them up, and that's a great thing to see them keep going up off that deal. And I'm glad to see the move. It looks very similar to whenever that news got announced last week, like a very similar move. I'm glad to see it from 90 all the way to 115. Like, that's pretty crazy.
All right, and then let's see. We have a bunch of comments here. We have AJ saying, how are tech stocks this morning? Well, let's take a look. So if we start with Apple, Apple is up like 0.7% today. Mixed movement. We look at Microsoft. It's definitely falling down. I'm just going to go to the Market Watch tab real quick. If we go to indices, let's say we go to the NASDAQ. Generally, they're green. Microsoft's having a good day. No, sorry. Nvidia's having a good day. Microsoft is falling a little bit. Basically, they're all slightly green. The main stocks that are driving the NASDAQ is JD, Baidu, Zoom, and Peloton. So keep that in mind, but very mixed movement today. Mixed movement so far. And then we have AJ saying, will Microsoft fall below the 298 support? Well, it is technically below that right now. So, yes, it definitely looks like it. And then we have Rama saying, AFRM, please talk in detail on this. So, I know we just covered it. They had that Amazon deal like 2 weeks ago or so. They're booming on earnings. To be honest, I didn't fully look through their earnings release just yet, so we don't have a ton of information with this one. And then let's see. We have Shelly saying, good morning. Thought for sure Gevo would run again. They had so much momentum yesterday, and they're kind of pulling back. It kind of reminds me of Clove from the other day.
Yeah, it really does remind me of that Clove setup. And if we go check out Clove, you can see Clove continue down for 2 days, and now they're really consolidating around $9. So really watch out for that with Gevo. I could see it pulling back even harder. With that pullback, I think it shows that the stock is not going to keep running today. And if it does, and it goes back up and breaks 827, then you can just play it once it breaks. But as of right now, personally, I just wouldn't touch it.
All right. And then we have Maine saying, good morning. Thoughts on GM? It's kind of like a relatively safer stock. They have unique characteristics where obviously they're not like some like super volatile penny stock, but at the same time they're not as safe as a stock like Apple or Microsoft or anything like that. One thing to note is like over like the past year or so, GM has a negative correlation to the market actually. To be specific, they have a negative 0.68 correlation to the market. So it doesn't hurt if you wanted to grab a little bit of them. They just kind of give you like a unique hedge, I guess you can say. It's not like if the market crashes, this will explode. But over the past year, when the market fell, generally GM has risen. So keep that in mind. Tom, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. And I will say one good thing about it on a technical level is that we have not been back above the 1000 SMA all the way since back in August 4th. So maybe that's a good sign. We're finally moving back above that. We consolidated a ton here at $48, and it might be a good time to buy some shares, or it might be a good time for some calls. It looks like the stock is turning back to the upside here. After having that steep sell-off, and definitely watch it. It almost reminds me of like an MU play or something like that. Right after they fell, they consolidated a lot. Make them break out above $50. I think if they break that, it could be a really good play.
Good stuff. And then we have Brian saying, what do you think would be a good buy-in level for AMC and GSAT? So one, just understand that they are very, very risky. So please keep that in mind. But looking at AMC, it's at this $50 resistance right now. It is one of the most volatile stocks on the market right now, so please keep that in mind. Honestly, I just think the best way to go would be to dollar cost average, maybe buy like a third of your intended position now, a third next week, and a third, the week after that. It's at an important level, but at the same time, it's just been consolidating / falling over the past couple months, and it's one of the most volatile stocks on the market.
Yeah, and I think that would be one of the smartest ways to play AMC too, is just to kind of dollar cost average. Like if you want 100 shares of AMC, just as an example, maybe grab 30 shares now or 25 shares now, and then give yourself 3 other opportunities to grab 25 shares. I think that could be a good way to go. And if we end up breaking out above 50 and we end up having a nice run up to like 55 or something, then you don't miss the rise. But if we end up falling, then at least you're not going all in then on AMC, because it's so volatile. If it falls and ends up going down 15, 20%, it could happen pretty fast. So really watch it. But I love the breakout here. I love how it's in this bullish flag setup. And I would think since we hit $50, I would really think that we could break out higher than that today for sure. But so far, the movement has just been kind of getting rejected there at 51. I really would like to see a bigger breakout move than this. Obviously, people wanted to see, way bigger move than $1 once it broke. So
Yep, for sure. And then Brian was also asking about GSAT. Basically the same thing as we said with AMC. Dollar cost averaging would probably be the way to go. This one's also a penny stock, so you have that you have that to throw in the mix. On a technically speaking, the market is expecting AMC and GSAT to have the same levels of volatility. They both have implied volatilities of around 160%. So they're both pretty volatile, and it's probably best to just dollar cost average into both of them if you like them.
Yeah, for sure. And looking at GSAT, I mean, I'd be really careful with this one personally. It looks like there's a long-term resistance here at like $2.75. And I don't know, it just seems like a pretty big resistance level. We're having two pretty big red days here, failing to break out. Once we do break out of that, though, it could definitely have a nice run. But just wanted to point that out. We hit that level all the way back in February 17th.
All right, Palantir's still going, Tom. Check it out. It's up like over 2% on the day.
Yeah, maybe we'll be able to get back up towards that $27 area. You know, we've got really rejected there the other day. And look at that. You're right. These green candles so far today have just been awesome. And yeah, hopefully we can get that nice breakout that we've been waiting for. Palantir has been really struggling to break out above that $27 to $28 area. We've hit off of it like 3 or 4 times on the daily chart over the past few months. And I feel like once we finally break it, it should get a nice move up. And you know, that move down this week in the middle of the week on Wednesday, that really blew my mind, Mike. I thought we were finally going to see a move out with Palantir. It just got really rejected. But I'll tell you what, it's blowing my mind even more now that it came all the way back. This has been a really volatile, crazy, like up and down stock this week. One of the more volatile ones I think we've covered.
Yep. And then we have Jason saying, just stopping in for a minute to say, made the mistake of doing weekly hood debit spreads and losing everything. Live and learn. So sorry to hear that. Yeah, I'm very sorry to hear that. Live and learn. I'm sure that everyone on this stream can say that they've made a stupid trading decision before. So hey, it's all part of the process. So live and learn, and there will always be more opportunities. So keep that in mind. Then we have G saying, Clove Smooth Brain Ape has mixed emotions. How's Clove doing?
Unfortunately, it's not doing good today, down another 2.9%. Now, the sell-off today is not near as drastic as it's been the past couple days, but definitely not a good move. You know, it looks more like a consolidation day rather than anything. Like the stock looks like it's just not going to go anywhere. We're just kind of stuck here right at this $9 support. I don't know. It looks like we might hold this and end up going up, but personally, with all the downwards movement we had, I would not be surprised to see it fall down a little lower. I don't think shares at $9 is too bad of a way to go, but I just don't think I'd be going into calls or anything right here.
Gotcha. All right, and then we have Alex saying, what are good levels to buy the chip stocks for long-term shares like AMD, Nvidia, MU, and Intel? So, Tom, hit us with those levels.
Yeah, AMD, let's check it out on the max daily. I would really try to target somewhere around $100 or maybe slightly less. They're a pretty volatile stock, and they're set to have a lot of growth over the next few years. So they could really start to run, but I would try to target somewhere around $100. If you have enough money, selling puts on these stocks could be the way to go. Maybe with AMD getting strikes under $100 or $96 is definitely the way. But keep in mind, I said selling the puts, not buying them. This is where you short them. And if you end up getting a sign, then you just have to grab shares. But AMD under $100. Nvidia, I would really want to get it somewhere around 200. With Intel, I think Intel probably has the best long-term, they're at the best level to buy it right now for the long term, just because they've been down off their highs so much. And I think they're pretty good. Anywhere under $55 should be good for Intel to start to average in. And what was the last one, Mike? MU?
Yes.
Yes, and MU has been also pretty good around the 70 support. I would say anywhere under 75 with MU is pretty good, kind of like where they're at right now, 74.83. I think it's a great time to pick up MU and Intel. I think AMD and Nvidia are a little overextended, and you know that kind of shows with like MU's chart kind of going down while these other ones are still rising. But I really think that MU, Intel, and the whole sector could end up doing great. So I think it's a good time to grab a little shares of all of them right now if you grab all of them. But I would personally grab MU and Intel now, and then maybe wait for AMD and Nvidia, like I said, to fall back below 100 or 200 on Nvidia.
Yeah, I mean, Nvidia is such a powerhouse. You look at that one, and it's just going up and up and up. And they had that split, 4-for-1 split, like a month or two ago. So they are a powerhouse. One other thing I wanted to, just put on the table, Alex, is check out SMH. This is basically an ETF of a bunch of different chip stocks, and it's actually breaking all-time highs. And if you get this, it kind of just is a combination of all of them. So maybe if you just wanted to buy a little bit of SMH, just like for the time being, and you could average in individual stocks as they dip. It's just an idea, and really when you get this, you just have exposure to basically all the chip stocks.
Yeah, and you can see how much it's really flying up. Whereas, like if you would have bought, for example, obviously if you would have bought AMD or Nvidia a couple months ago, you'd be doing great right now as they ran up to all-time highs. But if you would have bought Intel a couple months ago around $65, I mean, you'd be doing pretty bad right now as they had this big gap down. Same thing with MU. So I agree, Mike. That's probably the better way to go. The only problem is that it's really high right now, like it's running to all-time highs. So it's a little hard to pick it up right now. But hey, if AMD and Nvidia are in there, it could be great.
All right. And then we have Rama saying, why is VZ going down? So, VZ, Verizon, I'm not seeing any major catalyst with this one right now. I saw that they raised like $1 billion lately. So, or actually, yeah, raised like $1 billion a couple days ago. So, that's not the best news. But at the same time, I'm not really seeing any major catalyst with this one. They're a good stock for the long term, but they just don't really move too much.
Yeah, I think they'll end up being pretty good for the long term. In the short term, they fell below that 1,000 SMA on the daily, which is generally not a good sign. The last time we did that actually was on the COVID crash, and it did not go well whenever that happened. So really watch out. I feel like if we break below $54, it could be pretty bad. Verizon's generally a better longer term stock, and with 5G and everything about to come out, I'm kind of surprised to see Verizon turning over the way it is. It really is surprising, especially if we go look at other stuff like AT&T, which it's not really turning over, but it's just kind of holding its ground down here at 27, just kind of doing nothing.
All right. And then we have Maine saying thoughts on Moderna for today. So I know Biden had an announcement yesterday with like the vaccine and stuff, and Moderna shot up yesterday. Moderna's at a point right now where even though it's overbought, it's hard to play this one to the downside because they're just exploding, especially with everything going on in the world right now. And at the same time, like their options are really expensive, like even relatively speaking, they still have a 70% implied volatility. So it's just like Moderna's at a point for me where it doesn't make sense to play to the upside or the downside. If anything, like maybe like a quick day trade or like momentum play with shares, because you don't have to worry about time decay or anything like that. But besides that, it's just like I'm on the sidelines with this one.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's a really crazy setup here. And, these setups like Moderna generally don't happen very often. Like, it's very rare that a stock runs from 250 up to 500, then back down to 350 within just like a month. So that's pretty crazy to see, and be really careful with it. I think it's a stock that's really humbled a lot of traders. Like a lot of people are trying to play puts on it, ended up flying right back up to 450. So it can definitely hurt you, and just be really careful. Moderna is just one of those really volatile stocks, and it's unlike any other stock in the market, which makes it really interesting. And I think it makes a lot of traders want to keep playing it. But the thing is it's probably better to play the boring ones like Apple, Microsoft, and those other ones.
For sure. And guys, if you like the stream, it would help us out so much if you hit that like button. Tom and I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Then we have AJ saying got a nice 50% gain on Chewy this morning. There we go, AJ. Love to hear that. Chewy had some pretty good movement. So love to hear that, AJ. Amazing job. Justin said Moderna on the rebound. I bought the dip. There we go, Justin. I'm sure you're doing very well right now. I'm not sure what price you got in at, but it's still going. It's a powerhouse.
Yeah, hopefully you got in somewhere around 450. That'd be a pretty good daily entry.
Oh yeah, for sure. Or who knows? Maybe he even got it at 400. Let us know, Justin. I'm actually very curious with that. And then we have AJ saying, how's Donkey Horse doing? It's doing bad. It's doing bad. It's below 10, below 9. It's just not really doing anything. There's no momentum. It's just back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, Donkey Horse is definitely living up to its name this morning. Just kind of consolidating down there. For the long term, still around that $7 support, so it don't look terrible. But for me, it's just not the stock for me. I don't think.
Alrighty. And then we have Rama saying SOXQ. So I've never heard of this one. And then they
Huh.
said good mini ETF, almost same as SOXS. SOXX. Gotcha. So this looks like another semiconductor ETF. So I've never heard of this one, but hey, definitely thank you for sharing it. And then we have Jorge saying BMY is falling hard the past few days. I can't find any news that justify it. So I'm guessing it's just one more of its frequent dips that will soon recover again. Maybe a good grab anytime soon for anyone who likes dividend stocks. So I saw this actually. Like BMY is getting smacked, MRK getting smacked, and even ABBV. ABBV is also a dividend stock I like, but I also didn't see any major news with this one. Let me see. I know that there was some relatively bad news. I don't know if it was with the FDA or what that was starting to make some of these healthcare or health stocks fall, and it looks like they're just continuing.
Yeah, personally, for me, it just looks like it honestly is every time this stock gets towards 68 or $70, the thing falls every single time. We got there again, we hit 70, went straight down. So trust the resistances, and I guess it would have worked out pretty good. But BMY, MRK, all the same setup. They all kind of, have been bouncing off those resistances lately and just failing to break out. So it just seems almost like the healthcare sector just, they were obviously booming. Like you can see ABBV even booming really nicely. But once they got towards those resistances, it seemed like the whole sector kind of fell, not just each individual stock, but we can see like almost every stock in the sector is down.
Yeah, so I'm reading back through the news, and it looks like the FDA the FDA issued a warning on one of ABBV's products, and then I think that the other stocks are falling because if the FDA issued a warning on AbbVie's product, then they might also do the same thing on like BMY's products and stuff like that. Now I'm not 100%, but I was looking through this catalyst a little bit. What was it, like a couple weeks ago or earlier this week or whatever, and it was something along the lines of that. So good thing Jorge brought that up because I do think it is at a pretty good level, whether it's BMY, MRK, or ABBV. They're pretty good dividend stocks.
Yeah, the dividends are going to be pretty good. And, for the long term, I think some are better than others. Like ABBV, for example, I feel like is pretty high, but I really like how like MRK and some of those others are pretty low. I think those are pretty good pickups.
Alrighty. And then let's see. With the next comment, we have AJ saying, "What do you guys is SPY and QQQ going to be dropping?" So I'm not sure I 100% understand your question, but Tom, what are you thinking on the SPY's movement so far?
I'll tell you, to me, it looks really bearish, and I'm trying not to sound like the Grim Reaper here, but it sounds bad. The SPY just keeps going down. We're failing to break back out. We failed to break out above 450, the other day, and then we just came back down again this morning. I would say if we break below 448, look for a pretty solid, pretty safe move, even down to like 446. Personally, I'm looking at it more of to the downside than I am the upside. Yellen came out and talked about some crazy stuff with a potential default, a few days ago, and I think that's pretty big news. There's this news about default, news about possible rates going up. Inflation keeps getting worse and worse, even though, they keep saying it's only going to last a month or blah, blah, blah. What's it been now, Mike? 3 months that they've been saying that?
I think longer than that.
Yeah, I mean, man, it seems like a never ending, just like stream of lies or something at this point, but we'll have to see what ends up going on. And to me, the market seems like it's been really on like the brink of just wanting to fall. I feel like for the past few weeks, like, sure, we've been moving to new highs, but you can see it's been pretty slow. Like the SPY's having really small days up, and it's taken quite a long time to move from 445 up to 455. So, yeah, I mean, it's really slow movement right now. And I feel like what you've been saying for the past few weeks, Mike, investors are going to start de-risking themselves. We have Yellen coming out here talking about potential defaults. I mean, could you imagine if that ever happened? Like, I know the possibility that's so low, but the treasuries defaulting would be absolutely crazy. You know, the inflation just keeps getting worse and worse than they expected. And, you know, if Powell, all we need is Powell to say 2 or 3 bad words and this market's going to turn really red.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt he's going to say that because it's kind of his job to keep the market up. But, we're just in an interesting scenario right now. And, this is why I think it's still a pretty smart idea to have some hedges in place, because the market's at such a high point right now. And especially if you're holding like other positions, I think it's pretty smart to hedge at least a little bit. Then we have Sean saying, thoughts on X? I'm in shares at 26, looking at maybe getting a few October 15th at the money calls. So let's take a look. It's not bad. It's definitely not my favorite setup in the world, but it's not bad. X has been uptrending pretty well. Just the biggest thing I would say is just make sure you have like a quality option with this one. I know that they're relatively cheap. IV is relatively low right now. Just make sure you get like a quality option. And maybe even consider getting like a debit spread, like a put debit spread.
Yeah, that could be a better way to go. And I will say getting it around 26 is not bad at all. That bounce at $25 was pretty good. A nice solid move back up. It was also right off the 100 SMA, which is a decent technical move. Now we are bouncing good on technicals right here at $25. But the thing that worries me is once we fell out of this blue trend line, we came back up, double topped at $30 and also hit that trend line again. And it just kind of confirmed off of that back to the downside. So I don't know. It's really 50-50 for me with X. The price of steel has been up so much the past couple of years that X has been doing great. So I hope that they can start to break out and maybe go back up through 30. I think it's a decent pickup for shares. And I'm with you, Mike. I think that a debit spread might be a little bit of a smarter way to go. And the main thing is right now, if you have 100 shares, Sean, at least you can run the wheel strategy on this on the way up.
True that. And then we have Maine saying Microsoft puts for the day with the question mark. So the bot called this out yesterday, and it looks like it's continuing pretty well. So I like it. Just one thing to really, really keep in mind is, Microsoft is obviously driven by the market. Generally speaking, when Microsoft is down, the market's going down. When Microsoft's going up, the market's going up. Now, that's just generally speaking, but what you really have to be careful is, like, let's say you get Microsoft puts and the stock breaks below major support, but then like the SPY or the QQQ is booming up. You'd probably want to cut your play. So I like the play, Maine. It looks like it's going to continue. Just really keep an eye on that market overall, because it's really hard to fight against like the overall market trend, especially when you're playing a stock like Microsoft.
Yeah, I like how you said that, Mike, especially like with these bigger stocks that generally follow the market. It'll really move like however the market moves. So I think that's a really good way to say it. And I could see Microsoft going down, maybe not continuing all day today, but for the next few days, I'll be honest, like the daily chart with Microsoft, Mike and I have been saying that this has been overextended since it hit 265. So now that we're up to 300, I could definitely see it falling even more. And I could see it coming down maybe to 285 or even lower than that.
Good stuff. And then we have Keisha saying, yeah, I agree about the health stocks. My NVAX got smacked. Let's take a look. NVAX, yeah, they're coming down a little bit in the short term, but looks like they're on a solid longer term uptrend. Do you have any levels on this one?
Yeah, it looks like there was a pretty big resistance right around like 261 that it looks like it was a little bit of a fake out with NVAX. They started to break these couple resistance levels and looked like they were going to run, had that big fake out. Now they're back down to 250. I mean, I would say make it go back up above 260 as far as a resistance level. As a good support, I have a really big support at 230. So watch out for those two levels, 230 and then 260.
All right. And then we have AJ saying, Tom, AMD is falling to 106. Time for puts soon with the question mark.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, AMD's daily chart to me looks pretty bad. I'll say it looks like a pretty good bear setup here on the daily. We have lower highs, and when I say lower highs, I mean, we failed to even get up to 120 again. Like, these lower highs are pretty low. So I could see it going down in the short term, maybe down to like $100 a share. I don't really see AMD crashing and burning. If they do go down, like I said, I don't see him just flying down to $80 or anything like that out of nowhere. It might take a big catalyst or something, but I could see him going down too. That's kind of why earlier, whenever we talked about the shares and stuff, I said with AMD and Nvidia, maybe wait just a couple weeks. You might be able to grab them a little lower. Like AMD, I would try to target around $100 or something like that.
All right, and we have Gabriel saying ASAN is making a move. Yeah, it's popping up. It looks like it just broke above that $100 level. I've never heard of this company before, but they're really exploding, especially like over the past year.
Yeah, it reminds me of that of like a UPST or like DKS or something like that. Really good move up, and I'm glad to see it happen.
All right. And then we have Mike saying, why is GEVO crashing? So it's down 9%. Looking at the news, there's no major news today, but honestly, it just really reminds me of that Clover setup. Like if we take a look at Clove, it had an amazing, amazing day on, I believe, Monday. And then the next day, they just or no, it was Tuesday. The next day, they just tanked down. There really wasn't any major catalyst. It was just like a shift in momentum. So that's really like, it looks very similar to GEVO. Really, GEVO had an amazing, amazing day yesterday, and it could just be as simple as, people taking profits today.
Yeah, and even with the downtrend right now, if you go from pre or the end of after hours on Wednesday with Gevo before the big move, you're still up right now 25% from there. So that's still a big move, and it was up a lot higher whenever it was up around 8. So I'm not too surprised to see a pullback either. And I'm with you, Mike. It looks like a spitting image of Clover.
Yep, for sure. All right. And then we have Sean saying, awesome stuff. Thank you. Well, thank you for joining, Sean. And then Alex said, what do you think of Tesla for the short term? So let's take a look. Tesla, TSLA, they're kind of all over the place. They're basically flat today. They have been on a solid uptrend for like the past couple weeks or so. Just given everything in the market right now, whether it be the market overall, whether it be tech stocks, whatever, I just feel like right now it's not worth the risk to play Tesla in either direction. That's just my opinion. I like Tesla as a company, but the market, in my opinion, is pretty shaky. Tesla hasn't been the strongest stock over the past year, and just for me, I just feel like it's not really worth the risk playing to the upside or the downside. So I'm just going to stay neutral on it. But as long as they stay above like the 750 support, that will be a good sign.
Yeah, and I'll probably personally wait until I hear reports that Burry closes short positions to finally get out. I know it might take a few months, after the fact, but that I would definitely wait for that. I think that guy is just a crazy mastermind in the market. So definitely look out. I know that he was shorting Tesla. And what does he have, Mike? He has some TLT puts. He has puts on a lot of stuff. He also has calls on some stuff, though, like Facebook and Google. But keep in mind, his shorts on Tesla are pretty extravagant. And he's also shorting ARKK, which is Kathy Wood's ETF. But looking at Tesla, I mean, it's hitting off this trend line again. And, I was really hoping to see a good break of this blue trend line. And I hate to keep bringing this trend line up, but every time we touch it, we consolidate. You can see Tesla consolidated for like 5 days and just went totally flat on this line every time it touches it. And right now we're like on the third day again. And I don't know if we see another rejection here and we see Tesla come back below 700 again. I don't know. I'll have to be pretty bearish again in the short term on it. And I don't know. It's a really hard stock to gauge right now because it's trying to run up, but it just keeps getting rejected. And then at the same time, we have these big players coming in like Burry with his he's so good at like shorting stocks and understanding the market. It's just so hard to go against that guy. And he's shorting Tesla. So I don't know, with it failing to break out of these trend lines, personally, I don't think I'd touch it right now. Or if anything, I might try to play it to the downside if we see it bounce off this line again. Because what is this, the 10th or 12th bounce now? I mean, man, how many more bounces does it have to have?
Yeah, it's crazy. And then we have Keisha saying, let's go and hit that like button, guys. Yeah, thank you guys so much for everyone who hit that like button. Tom and I really, really appreciate it, and it helps us out so much. So huge shout out to everyone who liked the stream. We really appreciate it. We have AJ saying, have a good weekend all. Thanks for joining, AJ. G said, all right, fellas, long day at work today and overtime this weekend. Thank you for all you guys do, and hope everyone has a great weekend. Thanks so much for joining, G. Have a a great weekend as well. And then we have the other G saying, just got on. Have we talked about CEI yet? No, we did not, but let's take a look at it. CEI has a ton of volume coming in. Went from like 40 cents all the way up to 150 over like the past month or so. Lots of momentum. It's looking pretty good. It is a penny stock. It is pretty risky, but it has some really good momentum.
Yeah, I don't know what this stock does. I've never heard of them, but very interesting movement. I'm really glad you brought this one up. Thanks for bringing it to my attention. Personally, I like the intraday setup on it, and I could definitely see it continuing maybe today or for the next few days, but I'll definitely be keeping my eyes on it. It's been in a bit of a downtrend for the past like year or so, but it looks like it's really recovering back up nicely.
There we go. And then we have Jorge saying AMC knocking on 51. There we go. It's getting really close. It's up like 4.5% on the day. Lots of momentum, lots of volume. It's looking good, but it appears to be a pretty strong resistance right around 51.
Yeah, it's really posing at a big intraday level, failing to break out. Look at that double top on the 1 minute there at 51. I'll tell you, if you're a day trader, definitely make it break out above 51 before playing it. That could be a pretty good resistance. And I know it might be hard to sit here and watch it till it breaks, but hey, that's part of the game. And if it breaks 51.07, could be a good entry. And looks like we just broke it right now, hitting 51.14. So, if you were a day trader and you were looking for, if your strategy is resistance breaks, you would have just bought in just now. And who knows, I don't know how high AMC might be able to get today, but I would definitely target $52.
Here we go. Then we have Justin saying, thanks Mike and Tom for all the work you guys put in. You've helped me learn so much about the market and what to keep an eye on. Love the attitude you guys put forth. Keep it stocked up. There we go, Justin. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for all of your positivity. We really, really appreciate that. And then we have Rama saying ISEE. ISEE. Let's take a look at this one. I've actually never heard of it, and it is up 65% today.
Whoa, that's a huge gap on that daily. Wow. I mean, what's the catalyst here? We got to look this one up. This is nuts. I cannot believe it broke $10 like that and ran up to 15. I mean, wow. What a look at this. And after hours, they went from $8.70 down to $6 and then all the way up to 15. Like, what a crazy move.
Yeah, so it looks like they got a bunch of price targets and upgrades. Like, I'm just looking at like a couple different articles, and it looks like they had some good news with that. And it also looks like so they also reported results from its phase 3 Derby and Oak studies. So I don't know. I mean, it looks like a biotech stock, and they got upgraded, and good news. So awesome job. It's popping up. Lots of volume. IV's falling, but good eye with this one, Rama. But Tom, do you have any last minute stocks or anything you're watching for the rest of the day?
I was really trying to eye up DraftKings and a couple of these other stocks. It looked like they might have potential to break their resistances this morning and start to run up. I was really hoping for DraftKings to break above 64.58, maybe above 65, and we might have got a good run, but looks like just another rejection here at resistance. So I'll definitely be watching DraftKings later on today. They have that news with Disney coming out, and I'm definitely going to be eyeing up Disney as well. There's a lot of potential news between DraftKings, Disney, ESPN. They're all kind of ESPN's part of Disney is what I meant to say, but that deal with DraftKings could really do good. And I heard ESPN say that they had talks of buying NFL Sunday Ticket, which we covered in yesterday's video. And I'll definitely be watching for Disney and DraftKings both to possibly move today. And if they end up moving off these resistances and end up going down, then I might just have to play into the downside.
There we go. So thank you guys so much for watching today's stream. We had a great time. The market's kind of all over the place. So thank you guys so much for joining, and we hope you have an amazing day and an amazing weekend.